If you didn't notice, we released Dogwalk, the game that we've been working on. It's fully out on Steam, so make sure to play our game and check out all of the material that we've uploaded on our studio platform. So on studio.blender.org you will find a huge supply of blog posts, assets, source files of the game and everything you would ever want to learn about how to work with Blender and Godot. I published a blog post about specifically how we tackled the pipeline for this project, making sure that we can work together between Blender and Godot seamlessly. So yeah, check that out and make sure to become a member if you're not on studio.blender.org. It helps us. It helps us to continue what we're doing with sharing everything.
The selection of the things that I made in Papercraft for Dogwalk is now on display here at the HQ. One day maybe you can print your own Chocomel. I don't know if I get around to that, but people have been requesting that you can actually make the characters yourself at home. I think it's very easy with the boulders and the trees and the plants, only that the characters are cheated to some degree. Like you cannot print the child. At least not easily. But yeah, you can visit Chocomel if you travel to Amsterdam.
Maybe I would see a black hole coming at me, I would have eyes like...
Maybe it's like this, he look at the black hole appearing and then it's like, fuck.
Yeah, so Critter's rig is coming along, in my opinion, pretty okay, but it's getting a bit surprisingly complex for how simple the character looks.
I was very busy retopologizing the giant jellyfish character. Every week when I'm saying in the kickoff, oh yeah, I can get it done. I'm like working on just this one thing. Very quickly does it derail into Critter not working in some way. Because looking back, we kinda rushed it.
I've been assigned the first shot that we see the character in, but I've been trying to do it a little bit. I mean, we have to test this rig, and the only way of doing it is just assign a person a shot. They will start trying to do something. They will immediately realize that the rig isn't ready or there's something you need to improve upon. There were some question marks there, and I was kind of in the middle of it, testing stuff that was being made.
That doesn't mean that the retopology that I did for Critter was obviously bad and was never going to work and we should have seen this coming. It means that we didn't test if it was gonna work. I don't know why I keep forgetting this. It's like I'm suffering from production knowledge amnesia whenever a new project starts. Somehow I always run into this trap of thinking, this can be simple. And with Critter we started rigging and noticed the eyelids do weird things.
I just have the big feeling that I have modeled something that we cannot rig and cannot shade. So, or rather, I modeled something that we are able to rig but cannot shade. And I should have instead modeled something that we can shade but cannot rig. So...
I mean, someone will be thrown under the wheels in that scenario. I don't know, I think to me it looks perfectly fine.
Right now it does,
yeah.
Because this is the riggable thing, but it's not the shadeable thing. Simon just figures something out. It's all up to Simon in the end.
First day without Andy. Morale is sinking into the ground.
We discovered that our simple solution for the eyelids is not going to work, where we would have like a separate eyelid mesh that would just come down and appear whenever it's needed. Which would have been very simple for me to rig, because just rigging a half sphere that is an eyelid, that was pretty easy, which I already did. But it caused issues with the silhouette, it caused issues with the shading, it caused issues everywhere.
Basically, the eyelids are just half spheres that you can freely deform. And because they're not connected to the rest of the face, you can just pose it however you want. The problem is, because it's so disconnected from the rest of the face, you're gonna very clearly see a divide, like a crease between the two shapes where they meet, the rest of the face and the eyelids. Usually you would want to embrace this sort of decision. We did this on other characters before. It was done for the penguin, Otti, on Caminandes. His eyelids are basically black and his surrounding face is white. It's very clearly, visually, two separate shapes. And then it just works. But in our case, Critter It's supposed to be more blended, the rest of the face, towards the eyelids. Also, the entire body mesh is transparent. That makes it even more complicated. So in shading and in the shape language of the face, it was causing issues where you always clearly see that the eyelids are disconnected. On top of that, we made the eyeballs very round. If you see other characters like Otti, the eyes are actually completely squashed, they're flat. And it's fine because you don't see all those parts of the eyeballs that are submerged in the head. Usually what we do is we use a lattice that just completely shrinks the back of the eyeball. So only the parts of the eyes that you see are flat and they're huge. We couldn't use these typical solutions for Critter. So now we just decided to merge the eyelids with the rest of the face and try to hide that curvature of the eyeballs. When you close the eyes, it's just like stretching all over the eyeballs, basically conforming to the general curvature of the head. It looks nicer. That's what it boils down to. It looks nicer.
But it means that poor Demeter has to do some extra work.
So we're not going to be able to go with a simple solution. That's unfortunate. But his body rig, I think, is really fun to play with. It's very squishy. He's like a gummy bear. I think his movement is going to be largely inspired by swimming in liquids. Sometimes he will interact with the ground, which in this case is like floating rocks and asteroids and stuff.
I've been working on testing the body rig for Critter. For that, I've been doing some swimming animations on the different states he's gonna be doing. He's gonna be swimming like a more relaxed way, and then he's gonna be swimming faster as a torpedo. And also giving feedback to Matt. He's been updating the rig, everything's getting broken, and we have to redo stuff, but it's something that you have to do because you need to test the rig.
I look forward to the rig being released when the film is done, because all our rigs go online. You can, download them and play with them. As a studio subscriber, of course.
I'm researching, look at this. I'm doing research, bro. Don't tell me what to do. Watching anime is doing research.
Am I doing a lot of research?
I know!
I'm not even asking him to work anymore, I'm just asking him to pretend to work for the camera.
I'm pretending already.
I finally also jumped on board with Singularity, so starting out some shading on Critter. Now that the modeling has been done pretty much, I've been just starting out testing some different effects. Also on the environment, because we want to make everything look nice and painterly, like more watercolory ideally, so I tried some things to make the silhouettes, so the outlines of the elements kind of fade or look more like it's like painted in individual layers. So I did some shading tricks that are also based on what we did for Wing It, for the outlines. Also combining that with brushstrokes and now putting the same logic onto the character. And also trying to create some like fake depth so it looks like the character is see-through and nice and colorful, like a space gummy bear. That's kind of what we're going for. Besides the discussions that have been going on about how we can solve the eyelid situation with the character, I've been working a bit on preparing for SIGGRAPH, because I'm going to be leaving next Friday for SIGGRAPH with a couple of other people here from Blender, and lots of stuff going on. I'm going to be giving a workshop on geometry nodes, so I need to prepare that, and I'm doing that now. So I'm kind of shifting back my focus there, which kind of fit well because Andy is also off this week. So while the director for Singularity is not here and everything is exploding in regards to the character topology, I thought I'll just do something else.
I'm working on one still, I'm working on Critter still, and I'm working on 12 background creatures, NPC creatures. I think what we're trying to do is imply an entire ecosystem, but it all is just in the background. So it's quite tricky, so we only really have the design. So we're trying to cover a lot of different shapes and proportions, but they're all meant to look like they can swim better than Critter, except the one sacrificial creature that lives on the ice and won't ever make it. They are all at least influenced by two different real-life creatures, probably more, because they are kind of these proto-creatures, and once you see the end of the movie, you see that, they probably became species that we are familiar with, but each one became like different types of real-life creatures. It's not like the end is realistic, but it implies more our normal biology.
The retopology, for one, is basically done. I was chatting a bunch with Simon because there's going to be a lot of procedural geometry node deformation on the character as well, and also procedural shading. A lot of the detail is just going to be added on top like that. The one part where I went a bit more into detail with sculpting is basically that ball where all the eyeballs are placed on top of. I sculpted a bunch of details there and I'm gonna bake it. And for that, I'm really glad that we already figured all of this out with Charge, because there we had to bake a lot of displacements and we ended up not using the default features of baking from a multi-res modifier. Instead, we have a custom geometry node setup where you can get fully accurate vector displacements and bake them. It basically puts them into an attribute and then you can just bake that into any mesh to any texture. We actually have that set up online on studio.blender.org and you can download it. You can find it on the realistic character workflow. There I have a detailed guide on how we were using two different baking setups for regular displacement and for vector displacements. The geometry node modifiers that you can just download and directly use, I just tested them. They still work on the latest versions of Blender. Back to one. Vivian also did a bunch of paint overs and finalizing the design that way. There's a lot of information that we can get from the concepts that would just take a lot more time to nail down in the modeling or the sculpting. But some areas like the eyelids, I modeled in a bit more detail specifically because that's one of the objects that we're just repeatedly duplicating all over the place. He has a lot of eyeballs.
We talk already about how this thing is going to be animated. It's like we need to do a cycle, or is something that is going to be everything...
He's adorable when he's getting anxious.
Yeah, a lot of shit there.
He's like...
I don't want to look at me. I don't know, you are...
It's like procedural now.
Yeah.
Can you help?
I mean, a lot of